were much better off as a sun god, weren't you? No one gives a shit about your falcon head anymore.
So this is my second video, and I'm going to be talking about my AP studio art class and kind of everything that goes along with that. So my AP class, I actually had 3 years for that class because I started high school by skipping my foundation art year, so I could just go straight into my drawing and painting class, and then the next class up was just the AP class, and I had 3 years instead of 2 because I started it my sophomore year. So that was obviously a really nice option for me, and I don't know if that's an option for everybody. It obviously won't be, but if you can do that, then I would definitely recommend, because it just gives you more time to focus on your concentration and kind of just let it happen naturally instead of rushing with it. That's a big issue with a lot of people. Like, they rush through it and then they don't get a good score because they didn't put as much energy into every single piece as they did like the first few. So yeah, my biggest tip would just be don't rush it. Try and divide it up so that you can have an equal amount of time for each piece, because that's something the College Board will really notice in your work, is if you rushed it. So I did get a 5 on my concentration. I was so relieved. I just got my score a couple months ago, late June I guess, and I was pretty confident in that I would get a 5 until like the last week of my senior year, when my teacher handed us these papers, and it was from the College Board website apparently, and it was all the things that they want you to stray away from in your AP concentration, and I'll try to find that if I can and put it up on the screen. But basically it was all these things that they think are cliches in art and they see way too often for the concentration pieces. And a lot of my aspects of my concentration were in that paper, so that made me feel a little bit worried when I hadn't really been before. But honestly, that paper I don't think is a definitive, written in stone kind of thing, because I did still get a 5, and a lot of the cliches, I mean, they're just aspects that are popular in art, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's a cliche, and it really depends on how you use it in your art. So my concentration was kind of like fairy tale like images that kind of tell a story when they're all put together. It was just something that I knew that I could spend all my time on, and I wouldn't get bored of it, because it is something that can kind of change with me and my style and can be interpreted in many different ways. It's a little bit broad, but that's kind of what you want. Just a slight bit of broadness so that you do have room to grow in it, because you are going to be working on it for multiple years. So each one of my pieces kind of had moody lighting. It was kind of a surreal aspect to it. Each one featured a full moon. So the story that I kind of ended up piecing together was, it started with someone seeing a reflection of the moon in water, and then it ended with them facing the moon and kind of being blinded by that light. So I'll go through each piece and try and explain it. I did have some pieces in my last video about the college applications. Some of them, it's a bit of a crossover, but I think only a few pieces, so there's still a lot of new pieces to talk about. And I might go over breadth too briefly, because that is important as well, but it is similar to your college portfolios. So the cliches that they had written on the paper were like moons. They see a lot of moons, they see a lot of like water reflections and moody stuff like that, but I mean, that's, you know, you see a lot of art like that already because, you know, we're all humans, we're all the same species, we're all gonna see, you know, beautiful things as beautiful, so, you know, we paint what we think is beautiful. But yeah, I didn't let it worry me too much because I knew that my concentration was good and it was very strong because I put a lot of focus into it and I kind of focused on what brought it together, the aspect of the moon. A lot of the same people were seen throughout it, and a lot of the colors. I kept the colors very similar too. I focused a lot on dark greens, blues, and some pops of warmer colors as well. So I'm gonna go through each piece. The first piece is really old, it's from sophomore year, and it's in tempera paint, which I really loved early on in high school, but I've definitely strayed away from it now. I'm not a fan of it at all anymore. It's kind of like a mix of watercolor and acrylic if you haven't used it, and I don't know, I just feel like it's so streaky, but that's what I decided to do this piece in. It is a really big piece. I'm not sure the exact measurements, but it is pretty large. So for this piece I just kind of wanted it to be hands, like really creepy hands. I love that kind of thing in my sophomore year too, like creepy art. So I wanted to make creepy hands, like dipping into this like little pool of water and kind of seeing the moonlight. So I mean, it's an okay piece, but you can definitely tell it is the first piece that I worked on. My second piece, I was actually really proud of this piece when it came out. I loved the detail I put into the grass, and I was really impressed with how it turned out and all the work that I put into it. So it's just a girl looking at the moon, and I loved how the stars came out too. But yeah, I think it's really interesting to see my evolution throughout this whole process. Like the ways that I kind of decided to render the moon definitely changed. And, you know, just the realism and the quality of each piece definitely went up, and that's what you want. You want it to, you know, obviously you want it to stay somewhat similar, but you don't want it to be able to show that you didn't put that much work in towards the end of your concentration. The third piece is just a really simple watercolor. I kind of rushed this one, but yeah, I kind of put like a shimmery acrylic powder over top of it too to give it a little bit of extra something. But yeah, it's really simple, just someone kind of levitating over a lily pad in the forest kind of setting. It's really small as well. It was just something I worked on over the summer. The fourth piece is a little bit different. It's all ink, and I did this because it was actually part of another assignment in my other college class that I just wanted to work in to be a concentration so I could kind of get, you know, kill two birds with one stone. So it's a little bit amusing. It's on illustration board 15 by 20, I believe, and yeah, it's just someone biting into a moon, and a lot of line work, a lot of interesting things to look at up close. The next piece, I wasn't very proud of this one. It's a clay piece. It's kind of like a clay tile, and it did crack. It was a whole thing, but I wanted to include it just because it showed a little bit that I could work in a different material, which isn't actually necessary for your concentration, which I didn't really realize. I didn't really realize at this point that you don't actually have to show in your concentration that you can work with different materials. It's more just about your breadth. That's why your breadth exists, just to show that you can work with different materials. So I didn't really realize that. I was kind of trying to do that in my concentration as well, but it's not really necessary. The sixth piece I'm still really proud of. And I did talk about this in my college portfolio video, so I'm not going to talk on it too much, but really proud of it. It was another crossover piece that I was trying to do for an assignment as well as my concentration piece. The seventh piece in my concentration, not too proud of this piece either. It's okay. It was just kind of another filler piece. I did manage to sell it for $150, I think, so that's always nice, but yeah, not too proud of it. Yeah, I did this for another assignment too, So that's why there's birds in it. It's because the assignment was to create a piece that went along with a poem, and the poem had crows in it. So, but yeah, I don't really like the setup of it and how it kind of is a weird cut off of a foot and the crow. I'm not really so pleased with that, but it's okay. My 8th piece I also talked about in my college video, and this was my piece that I also did for my Parsons project. That's why it's a batik, is because I wanted to show that I would experiment with another material, and this is my first time making a batik, so I'm pretty proud of how it came out. It's a little bit different, but yeah, it's just hands holding candles and there's a little moon. Now the 9th piece, I did talk about this in my college video as well, but I'm really proud of this piece. It's 18 by 20, and it is it's something that I kind of had in my mind that I wanted to make for this concentration. I just thought it would be a really cool viewpoint to do from kind of underwater looking up slightly, and I'm really happy with how it came out, very similar to what was in my mind and what I pictured for this piece. And I love the colors. It really ties in with other pieces. It fits in well. And my 10th piece I'm also very proud of. I was not very pleased with it at first, and I explained why in my college video, but yeah, I've grew to love it a lot, and that's partly because I know a lot of other people really love this piece too, and yeah, I've appreciated it more as time went on, which is unusual. Usually I like a piece when I finish it, and then a month later I don't like it anymore. The 11th piece is really small, so I couldn't get as much detail as I wanted, but I wanted to do a little kind of forest scene, and I wanted to kind of make the forest look like something from a Miyazaki film, like kind of Princess Mononoke or Spirited Away, or like My Neighbor Totoro, the big forest in that. And I don't know, it wasn't really successful, but I like how the water turned out, really luminous looking, and you know, I think it's not a bad piece. The last piece in my concentration was the piece, or the only piece where the moon isn't actually in the picture. The moon, you can tell it's from like the front, behind the view, and she's kind of blinded by it. So I don't know, this piece, I had a good image for it in my head, and I don't think I really conveyed it too well, but I think it's okay. You know, it closes off the concentration pretty well, I would say. But yeah, there are 12 pieces. It's a whole 12 collection, and I think the main thing is just making it look like a collection. And yeah, just try and picture it in a gallery setting. Kind of, would it work if you had the opportunity to have a whole show in a gallery of just these pieces? Would it feel like a complete show? So that's a helpful thing to think about, and I don't think I'd never had all of these pieces in one gallery or place at one time, but I did have a few of them at a time in different places, so I could kind of get a better feel for that. But yeah, I think that's a good thing to imagine to help you really form your concentration. And you should really think about doing something that you know you'll be able to work on for a long time and put a lot of energy into, not something that you're going to get sick of. And you want to pick something challenging so that you do grow, but also don't make something that will be something that you can't finish, something that's going to stress you out. You do need to make 12 pieces, so yeah, that's what I would say. Another thing, don't make your pieces too big. You do have to send in 5 to College Board, so it does need to fit in the envelope, and I wouldn't recommend folding it up for that, because that does ruin it. You should just make sure you make 5 pieces that are gonna fit in. to the envelope. And it is a big envelope, but it's not insane. Let me try and find the exact measurements. No, 10.5 lengthwise and then 15 like width. So, you know, that's not very big. So just be aware of that, that you do need to have 5 pieces that are going to fit in there. And yeah, I would not recommend building it up because you can sell those pieces, and you know, I don't think it's worth ruining it just to send to the College Board. I would say that I did make some big pieces that I thought were really good, but not good enough to ruin, you know, like I had other good pieces that I would put in. So yeah, that's a big thing. But yeah, my process, I think this is a great assignment and a great class to take because you can just see how much you grow throughout each piece, and it's a great process, and it requires a lot of, you know, reflection. And mine was from sophomore year to senior year, so that's a huge grasp of time, and you can really see my first piece and my last piece and how they compare. But yeah, I think that's all my advice. I don't really have anything else, just focus on it and put a lot of work into it. Like, this is your biggest assignment, and it's important to get a 5 so you can get that that college credit out of the way. It doesn't really count towards like foundation year credit. It usually counts for a studio class like your sophomore year. It depends on what school, but yeah, you're gonna thank yourself for that later. And even if you aren't planning on going to college, I would still say it's a good assignment if you really care about art and you're looking to push yourself in a different way. And yeah, good luck.
Out your Falcon head anymore.